Ardor Next family, we are back igniting this blockchain, the crypto woman here. You know me also as Elizabeth, with Nick Likes Tuna. He's also known as Nicolas Lim, and he's joining us from Australia, where it's already the new year. Happy New Year, Nicolas.
Happy New Year. Happy Ardor Day.
Yes, it's exciting, isn't it? We're on the
Yeah,
countdown.
I've got my little t-shirt here, which I'm going to wear all day, so that's going to be awesome.
All right. Yeah, this started out, as an idea that I posted. Let's all wear our Ardor Day t-shirts. And you know what? I haven't even thought about wearing mine. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
next one.
So this is what I'll be wearing all 1st of January here in Australia. It'll be a summer day, so it'll be fitting.
A summer day?
Yeah, so we're having a bit of a heat wave over here in Western Australia. We'll talk about that in a bit because I know where you're from at the moment. It's quite cold.
Yeah, we've got some snow here. Surprised we got the other day from these interviews and there was snow in the ground. Anyway, we are excited to know you. You're relatively new to the community, but you're very involved now. And why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are personally?
Awesome. Well, I'm from Perth, Western Australia at the moment. I spend a lot of time in Sydney as well as Singapore and Canberra. So I travel around a bit, and I'm currently a management consultant for a large international firm working in technology. I do enjoy animals. I got a pet dog that I picked off the street in Singapore. But today, yesterday now, last year, I went to the beach in Perth, Western Australia. So you can see that's blue sky for anyone in the Northern Hemisphere. And went to an island of Western Australia to see penguins. They're currently molting at the moment, which is a bit, scary for them. And they hide under the little ridges to keep safe from prey. But it was really cool to see a bit of nature, which is what I enjoyed doing. My time is not looking at the screen, trading cryptocurrencies or reading about the latest blockchain technology.
So tell us how you got involved with blockchain technology and even more how you came across NXT and Ardor.
Yeah, so in my line of work, we do a lot of technology work, and blockchain was sort of the hot topic of 2016 going into 2017. And I sort of was too lazy to get too much involved immediately. As many people, I missed the first wave earlier in 2017. But by the time sort of mainstream media started entering into my Twitter feed talking about Ethereum and other blockchain technologies that wasn't Bitcoin, I was like, well, something's up here, and there's a bit of a wave happening. And so I started investigating. I wanted to buy something. That's how I started. I wanted to buy something that was undervalued, but also that I could see myself not only purchasing and storing and creating a value monetarily, but also something I could get involved with. And that's when I sort of came across Ardor. I was like, why is this so cheap? For me, it was like, it's ready to use, it's scalable, it has features that you can enable through Ignis. And the thing for me was my clients could use out of the box package like Ardor and integrate it into many unique business cases, not only that could complement their business, but make their businesses something completely different and new and cool. And so I got talking to a lot of the OGs, as they were in the Twitter world, and to other people in Twitter, including yourself. And I was like, well, why the hell is this so cheap? What's going on here? And people were like, well, marketing is their problem. And I was like, well, why doesn't someone do something about it? And I think that's when you came up and you was like, why don't you do something about it? So I started reaching out to the community that way, and I'm trying to help out with some of the training material and the onboarding and making, I guess, the process as seamless and as frictionless as possible. I know from a business perspective, a lot of the business people shy away from something that's scary and new and want to have other smaller businesses test it out first to say, ooh, is the water okay here? But what they do gravitate to and what they will gravitate to is something that has a good user experience, is tested. It's something like NXT, which is long-term tested by many people around the world, and something that's safe, and that's something that's comfortable for them. So I think we're on a good roll here. We've got a new website, and I'm looking forward to helping helping out a little bit more with the training material and making it a little bit better for the business users to come on board in 2018.
Yes, and we're excited to have your help too. One of the reasons I said that, Nick, is some of the history of the NXT community is we started as a very decentralized community with no budget. And so there were some of us that have been around since the early days that actually started contributing our time. And sometimes we did it for bounties, and sometimes we did it for free, and some of the big whales that were the initial buyers would reward us. But sometimes we just did it for our passion for this project. And it's true, it was a community-driven project. And so that was actually your invitation to join us and become part of the community. And I'm glad you did.
That's awesome. So one thing I wonder is, well, you've sort of been in the community for a long time. How have you transformed from something that was sort of a passion into something that's suddenly a business, right? And something that it's getting quite serious, I guess. We're going to market, and we're going to try and, as Leo says, we're going to try and make this usable for businesses and the go-to function. And how have you noticed that change in sort of the mindset?
To bring it to businesses?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when I got started back in 2013, at the end of the year, right when I guess I wasn't an early participant, so no, I'm not not one of those guys. But I'm early enough that I think it was NXT was 3 days old, and back then everything was called a cryptocurrency, or was an alternative cryptocurrency, which was an alternative to Bitcoin. And we did come out with our own unique blockchain structure and solution to what we anticipated to be these huge problems. I mean, BC Next had an incredible foresight into the future and predicted these problems way before anybody else. And but the cryptocurrency thing hung a lot of people up, and it still does. You know, people who come in just for trading, but very soon people started seeing this vision. You know, actually, BC Next, who many people believe now has come from beyond, he's gone on to start IOTA, which he always said he was going on to his next project, but he commissioned me to make a website, and we called it Next Technology Tree, and it was a roadmap for NXT. And he was very determined that this was going to be finished before he left the community. So it was like, hurry, 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 get this done. But what it did is it spelled this roadmap of steps. So it was always going to lead to applications and things. It wasn't a surprise to anybody who was following the fundamentals of the project. But it's interesting because then the rest of the world started grabbing onto this notion of blockchain. And so we kind of were like, okay, that's cool. We're here. We're a blockchain. We have all of these features. But again, you mentioned marketing, and you'll know if you watch what John McLeod said, you could push all of these PR pieces of information out, but if the world isn't ready to grab them, they're not going. And it's interesting you said that blockchain was the buzzword of 2016 because, you know, we've noticed it stepping up. But yeah, we've always been there. We're always ready for this. And
it's great for people new to the scene, like myself and I guess other people who have really come on board in 2017 to be embraced by the more senior people. And I think that's sort of the attitude that will for me, that I want to bring to the business clients that I do deal with, that you know, you're part of something that's a community-driven idea, and that is something that people believe in and that we want it to succeed, right? And I think that's been my experience so far within the Ardor and NXT community, and it's been really positive. So thanks for that.
Good. I'm glad you've had a positive experience. So, you think about business cases all the time. You're always thinking about how you can help your clients. Have you thought very much about use cases? Do you have some ideas there you could share with us?
Yeah, so as I said, there's sort of for me two ideas about how blockchain can be integrated into business. One is helping them what they do already a little bit better, but the really cool funky stuff is how does blockchain fundamentally change a business, right? Mm-hmm. So how does it take a business process from doing something a little bit more efficient to be completely different? Obviously, finance is the biggest current idea, but we also got stuff like real property, right? So property rights around the world we take for granted often because in Western societies anyway, the title deeds are stored in a relatively secure register, but in unbanked or in other countries around the world, you know, based on someone's whim, you could be struck off the title deed registry at a stroke of a pen. And that's something that, you know, we're moving fundamental business ideas and government ideas through implementing blockchain technology. And so there's a whole spectrum of use cases, and I think we need to balance it between, you know, telling businesses that what they're doing isn't under threat for some businesses, and that's, I guess, tends to probably be the reason why cryptos such as XRP or Ripple is quite successful, because it's telling the banking industry, hey, you guys are going to still survive. We're not going to unbank everybody. But to the other extreme, possibly that we do have a fundamental change in the way we record things through a distributed ledger that's completely independent of any one body, and that for many people, in property, in health records, in stuff like utilities, if we want to move, for example, from a utility structure where it's a centralized body of a company distributing out all the gas or the electricity to peer-to-peer sharing, that's a fundamental change, right? So it's a spectrum of use cases that we can explore. For me, it's doing both well at this point in time. And there are going to be businesses, the bigger businesses are going to struggle to say, hey, yeah, let's fundamentally change everything we do. But the more nimble, smaller businesses and the smaller governments around the world, the more liberal friendly governments, for example, I was born in Singapore, and I know they'll jump at the chance to change everything in a heartbeat because they want to be first to do everything. Yeah. And so it's picking your users. It always comes down to the users and what their tolerance for risk is, and their appetite for changes, and adapting the best use cases for them. And I think one thing that struck me about Ardor and Julia in general is we don't just have a product that's you know, fit for purpose out of the box. Here you go nuts. It's complemented by a team and a capable team to explain the technology, to walk them through the possible use cases, and really guide them to what's best for each client. And I think that's really powerful.
I want to say something about that team. You know, I try to get some of the guys that are so busy over there explaining and being approachable to everybody right now during this transition to be on here. And they are so dedicated to this project that none of them can really pull away. They don't see themselves being able to pull away to talk. And they might be a little shy too, but we do want to give them a lot of credit and thanks and appreciation for the work that
definitely. And at the end of the day, I mean, great technology complemented by great people, and that's a staggeringly exciting combination that I think we can take to market and really rock some industries. And I'm going to be really looking forward to sharing some of the use case materials that I come up with the team, and hopefully that we can bring to fruition, work together and bring it to clients. Be awesome.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited about 2018. I'll tell you what, it's good. So what is your very, very favorite part of your involvement in the community now?
So I guess for me, it's the education journey that I've been on. I've learned a lot about, well, I'll say trading, for example, and that's definitely something that I've learned through looking at the way people have accumulated Ardor, because it's a valuable product. I've learned a lot about the way the proof of stake technology works, because previously I was only really exposed to the proof of work technology. And I've learned a lot about, I guess, for me, the differentiating factor for Ardor, which is the child chain architecture, and how suddenly everyone else is going to jump on board that. But you know, we've got a working product, and it's I think also a community that adopts a certain mindset. So I watched Leo's video conversation with you, and he's quite pro hard forks, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. And his whole interpretation of that is, well, we've got to keep moving forward. And adopting that mindset, I think, is something that's going to stand this Ardor product and this Ardor vision up in really good stead going forward. And I guess for me, it's also a question to throw back at you. What commonalities within, I guess, someone as senior as Leo and I think we also had Taizen,
Yes,
you
he
know,
goes
and
back.
some newer members like myself and other people you've interviewed. What are the commonalities that you've experienced between us as a community?
You know, it's interesting because at first glance, you think you can never get to know anybody on a forum or on a Slack channel and hiding behind an avatar. And then you even come out behind those things and you start having Skype conversations and, you know, exchanging emails and stuff. But it's amazing that, you know, people come and people go, but the ones that start becoming part of the conversation and stick around, there are some themes that I've noticed. And one of them is they're very progressive thinking. Um, and, and, and they're okay with imagining a disruptive application or a disruptive solution to problems right now. I love their imagination, their thinking, but I also like their commitment to a purpose that's higher than them. Because remember, we started this with no budget and we weren't making, you know, investors didn't make a lot of money. So we stuck around because we saw the fundamental value of this project and just decided to stay, you know, plugging along there. And so, yeah, that commitment to the idea that we can impact the world in a positive way. You know, I think I see that in every single person. It's not about where the market cap is right now. It's more
Yeah,
about we are making an impact. You know, we're going to be part of the history books.
that's
That's
awesome.
more of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of resonated with all the conversations I've had, even on the Slack channels or Twitter or whatnot, and that's definitely true for me. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that surprises you after a while too is, you know, these people, they're talking and stuff like that, but until you really get to know them, you don't realize that this is actually a community that's coming together. And we don't like brag up their credentials or anything, but there's a community of some people with some serious credentials like you. You have a legal background, you're a consultant with a huge international company. But here's Nick likes tuna, you know what I mean? And you're coming in and joining the conversation. So it's awesome. I think it's wonderful that there's a certain sense of humility.
Yeah,
Too.
yeah, there definitely is. I think in the whole crypto sphere, it's sort of like it's we don't take ourselves seriously, but what we're doing is very important,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I think it's almost sort of like an irreverence to the current way of doing things that makes us successful. Like we can't be uh, structured in a way that's typical of a corporation, because what we're trying to do is create an entirely new version of a corporation. We're trying to create an entirely new version of how government functions, how currency functions. So we can't actually sort of be constricted by norms, because we're trying to tear them apart in a way.
I have a
And
feeling that the members of this community are the kind of people who don't want to be constricted.
exactly,
I don't think
exactly.
that would work.
So
Because those are the kind of people that are able to think outside of the box big enough, right?
yeah, exactly. So I mean that's I think part of where it comes from. Obviously, part of it is anonymity, and one thing that Ardor Days is doing is almost like revealing what's behind the avatar, which is kind of cool to actually see faces and people, and like people have families and stuff, and and they're
Yeah.
like normal people behind the scenes, which is really cool. But yeah, you know, it does go to the mindset that what we're trying to do here is quite disruptive and quite important. And if we took ourselves too seriously, or if not me, but if the people with more influence in the scene took themselves too seriously, well, it would be too scary.
Yeah, we can't put our individual selves ahead of the project. That just doesn't
Exactly,
happen.
exactly.
I mean, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, good. That was a good question.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks for answering it, and thanks for the linkage between the past and the present. It's really good to be part of the community, and well, for me, I guess what I'm looking forward to now is how do we bring that to the rest of not only my clients, but to the broader public. You know, that's what's sort of my next
we need to brainstorm that and work on that, and ideas that you have, bring to me, please.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll bring my ideas to you, and then we can rehash them, and that's the way community works. And that's definitely something we need to work on, is now bringing that to businesses. But what excites me is that all around the globe, we've got people who are positioning. You know, we've got Pat Chi in China, we've got Alberta Fernandez in London, and Mohammed Ajiji in Paris, and Gabriel in Singapore, and you in Australia, and you know, it's just on and on and on. Just incredible that these people are just poised, ready to go out and talk about this and deliver it as a business solution. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, very good. So, do you have any exciting projects you're working on right now that you can talk about?
Well, for me, I'm trying to, as I said, make the whole process of blockchain technology less scary for a lot of people. Not only just businesses who want to download a blockchain technology and utilize it, but also people who want to enter into the buying a cryptocurrency, for example. And I'm working with a few people here in Australia who I met on Twitter as well. We're trying to sort of like develop a platform or whatnot to make the whole user experience a lot better for a lot of people. And obviously, we're going to run into barriers. For example, I think a lot of the banks here in Australia have frozen a lot of payments into blockchain, crypto websites, whatnot.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so we're going to run into barriers, but what we're trying to do is similar to how I'm trying to create a better training for Ardor and NXT. I'm going to try and do that sort of schematically for a lot of the users and a lot of businesses here in Australia. We're going to focus on Australia because it's
Right.
big. But yeah, that's sort of my aim is to be a user-centric sort of platform creator for a lot of the blockchain users here in Australia, and hopefully that sort of links up with a lot of the NXT and Ardor stuff. But yeah, we'll see.
Good.
And what I'm sort of looking forward to the most is going on an education, not only through a platform, but also working with you to grow an education wing for the broader community, for blockchain generally, as well as Ardor and other platforms, whatnot. And you know, it'd be really interesting to see what the Ardor Next group does have in store. I know perhaps that there might be something in store for a broader education drive for blockchain generally, and I think just helping people understand blockchain is the first step, and doing that will be really
You're
cool.
right, because if they're not going to understand blockchain, they're not going to understand our projects, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's always that first baby step.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's the thing, right? Blockchain is scary and crazy until you sort of get that switch flicked, and then you're like, wow, why are we doing things anywhere else? You know?
Exactly. And then just invite those people on to be part of the community, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
yeah, so it's almost like an instantaneous flick switch, and then you're like, wow, okay, so that's sort of, I'm gonna work towards whatever tools I have towards creating that experience for someone, because
Awesome.
when that flick switch for me is pretty exciting, and hopefully a few more people and a few more businesses can be excited too.
Yes, well, and we do hope for that. So, being relatively new into this space, you can probably think of maybe some words of wisdom more immediately than some other people. What would you tell people? You know, maybe I usually say this kind of broadly, but let's say this to people who are maybe going to find this video, who are interested in developing it as a business person. What would you say to them from your unique background?
Okay, that's a great question. So for me, I think it's fine an area within your business that you think is going to be safe from this, and rethink that, because fundamentally, whether it's supply chain or whether it's record keeping or voting, it's going to impact your business in some way. So I've heard a lot about how, for example, the FT is very common. You know, blockchain is the solution without a problem. It's like, no, actually, business people really need to rethink every fundamental thing they're doing because of blockchain. It's if you're to create a business today, you're probably going to go some way down the blockchain route. But I think for me, it's talking to existing businesses that's going to be an issue. For example, if you're talking to a startup, they're going to adopt blockchain like that.
Mhm.
So it's if I had to phrase it, it's like think like a startup. If you were to start a new city today, if you were to start a new country today, if you were to start a new payment system today, if you start a new business today, and whatever you're doing, would you do things the same way? And if the answer is no, most likely blockchain would help you create the business and the architecture of the society that you want today if you were to start fresh today. So I think that's, for me, the most powerful message you can bring to businesses is that if you were to create exactly what you're doing today in 2017 or 2018 from fresh, that's how you can utilize blockchain to your advantage, because if you rethink your entire business, that's how powerful this is.
It is that powerful, and that's why the word disruptive has become one of my favorite words. Never thought that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like, it is something for me that is potentially going to leapfrog a lot of developing nations over developed ones, because they don't have the existing architecture to tear down, and those existing barriers, mindsets to tear down. Because if you were to start a new currency today, you wouldn't have it the same way as you did it 100 years ago. You'd do it on the blockchain, like there's no doubt about it. So if you're new and underdeveloped and you have no infrastructure, this is going to leapfrog you leaps and bounds. And if existing businesses and existing societies don't get on board, they're going to be left behind. So for me, it's not to be scared, but think like a startup. Think fresh. Think, how would you do things today without any preconceptions of what you did yesterday?
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask us questions.
Yeah.
Nick say that we're an approachable community, so jump in one of our channels somewhere and ask anybody, and if they can't answer your question, they'll find you an answer with somebody that can.
Definitely, and the response times in the Slack is very impressive.
Yeah, it is. Those guys are awesome, aren't they? So, all right. So this has been really fun, Nick. I know it's really late there. It's New Year's. After midnight, New Year's.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. In Perth, but we'll sleep through the new year and wake up fresh for Ardor days.
Yeah, wake up fresh and see the day won't even have ended, and New Year won't have arrived by the time.
Well, hopefully Ardor is live by the time I wake up, which will be exciting.
Yeah, well, wear your t-shirt so when you wake up, you're ready to go, right?
I will.
That's great. Hey, it was so nice to talk to you. We'll catch up very soon, and happy New Year.
Thanks a lot, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
cheers.
Bye.